everybody. Yeah, I'm in my husband's studio. I cannot take any credit for this. I cannot know what to do with one single thing behind me, so please do not ask. It's so amazing to be here. So this for me is really raw and new. I only experienced my illness not only even 2.5 years ago now, and the book just came out. It was meant to be a launch May 31st at the London Palladium, mainly because what often follows mental health illness and surrounds it is shame, the shame that stalks in its wake, and actually can be shame, guilt and blame can be as big as the illness itself. So I kind of wanted to do a big bang, and I was gearing myself up to do that, and then lockdown happened. And actually I think this is probably the safest place for me to be, at home with my boys and surrounded by love. I don't need to be in a travel lodge in Reading or Skegness right now on my own doing a book tour. So I feel really happy to be here, and actually lockdown for me and my head and the book has been really lucky. So I should just start by saying that I hadn't experienced a mental health serious problem at all before up to this moment. Not that makes any difference, but I think there is a sort of tabloid version of what a mentally unwell person looks like. You sort of think because of school, because it's not taught in school, or how it's taught to you or not taught to you, that you're either somebody that gets ill or doesn't. And actually the truth is that none of us are immune, that the scale is completely kaleidoscopic and that it can happen to anybody. So Daisy, if you could just put up my first slide, if that's possible. That's going to come up for you now, I'm hoping, in a minute. Does she hear me? Okay, well, don't worry if not. So I put up a picture on the 3rd of March 2018, and the picture is of me holding a glass of champagne with pink lipstick on, dressed like me, looking like me, and the untrained eye would think nothing was different. And I threw it on Instagram, and the caption underneath read, "Guess what world, I'm a mum." I think it's coming up now. It says screen sharing. I've never used a slide before, and now I'm never going to after this. There we go. Right, there's me. So my baby would have been 3 weeks old, and I was having this meal with my partner, then boyfriend, Hugo, who's now my husband. Okay, thanks, Daisy. And the photo was a complete lie, and I knew it was. Inside, I was experiencing at that moment extreme delusions, hallucinations, audible hallucinations, paranoia, suspiciousness, suicidal thoughts. I felt extremely alone, like I couldn't tell anybody, and I knew something was really wrong with me. 6 days after that photo was taken, I was admitted to a psychiatric ward, a general psych. I was completely confused. I was without my baby. I'd had an emergency cesarean because my birth had gone really traumatically wrong. Everything that could have possibly had gone wrong had. I had been 2 weeks overdue, and my little baby was told that he wasn't maybe going to make it. Roger's poem really hit me earlier, actually. Because of that, and I didn't think that either of us were going to come out of the hospital. He had problems feeding, so I had to feed him pretty much, I think, not telling anybody this to get applause, but I fed him at one point for 18 hours straight with a 10-minute break, and then another 5 hours. I didn't know what else to do. I was in a ward with him for a week where it was like a carousel of hell, where one baby would cry, then a mum would cry. We were just all in this kind of purgatory, thinking we didn't know if we were going to make it out alive or not. And that's when the illness first began to creep in. At home, once we were, this is before the psychiatric ward, I was trying my very best to act like everything was okay. I was pretty much messaging everybody that I knew that had a baby or knew of anybody that had at all. Lots of my friends had kids, and I was going, is it normal? Do you feel like you can't sleep? Like, even when the baby is sleeping, do you feel like you can't sleep? Are you experiencing these weird thoughts that makes you feel like you kind of want to like throw your baby out of the window or roll them into a fire? And everyone would go, yeah, that's normal, that's normal. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll just sit with it. And the terror and the doom, that kind of dread-like feeling, that Sunday night before school feeling, just started to creep in more and more. And I didn't tell anybody. I started screening my calls, not speaking to my friends, withdrawing. I had no appetite. Physically, I started to look very, very different as well. I don't, if you've ever seen anybody with psychosis, you can sort of see that behind the eyes, I feel that they look afraid, kind of animal-like. That will happen to me. I was going to the doctors every single day. The baby blues was being thrown at me. Anxious, severe adjustment disorder, and nobody had mentioned postpartum psychosis to me. It got to the point where I believed my paranoid delusions got so out of control. I started believing that a giant teddy bear was filming me, that I was having sort of secret thoughts with a tree that was nearby, and that Hugo's father was hypnotizing me. And it wasn't until I spoke to one of my friends on FaceTime, who kind of listens to me, reassured, validated, and then went away and Googled what psychosis after birth, and my illness came up straight away, postpartum psychosis, which is seen as a medical emergency. Fortunately, I was admitted to hospital straight away. So I was there for 2 weeks at the psychiatric ward. We have to go to group therapy every single day, and it was lonely and frightening. And even once I came home, I still wasn't treated. So I took the medication really well, but it wasn't an immediate recover. It wasn't, ta-da, I'm home, you're better, everything is okay. I then was plunged into a new form of depression, which I've never experienced anything like it before in my life. And when people attach the word depression with weakness, I just find that the oddest 2 words you could ever put together, because it is lifting weights all day long. You're a mental athlete if you are battling a mental health issue whilst trying to survive and live your life. And through therapy, through CBT, REBT, now recently ACT, I managed to get strong. But whilst doing that, the thing that absolutely really saved my life, and why I'm here mostly to talk about crisis and creativity, is I also wrote this book. And writing it actually saved my life. So I am usually a children's author, that's what I do, which kind of made the whole thing a bit more sick, really. It made me feel even weirder, and kind of, again, fulfilled that tabloid, insidious version of what somebody with postnatal depression looked like. I sort of felt like a kind of Chucky character. I had all these visions in my mind of the Jane Eyre woman in the attic, and of being that woman running around in a nightie looking for her baby, and then it happens to you. I'm that person that screams at nature programs on TV when an animal doesn't feed their young, going, feed your baby, and then suddenly you're the person, the animal, that doesn't want to do that, and you don't know why. So I put a blog out when Jet was 6 months, with Clemmy Telford, Mother of All Lists, and I kind of came out about what had happened to me and what I was experiencing. And the next day the blog went viral. I was told it had 300,000 hits, which felt, again, more ironic, more like a sick joke. As a writer, all you're trying to do is have that connection with your readers, and you're writing to take off. And it had happened to me, and I couldn't even leave the house. I couldn't push my baby in a buggy. And because I write, my agent said, oh, you have some interest in progressing this and taking this further, would you be interested in a book? And I pushed the idea away. And then I was so afraid of my brain and where I had been, and what dark creatures I'd found. I mean, all my other fears before were laughable. Now I was not afraid of ghosts anymore, or home intrusion. I was scared of the real life stuff that old people talk about when they say life is hard, that stuff. That kind of jury of monsters that sits with you when you're trying to sleep, normal stuff. And I found very soon that my book started to write itself. So I wrote the book on my phone, 250,000 words later, all written on notes, with a toddler crawling across me, watching Hey Dougie, and reading the Gruffalo. I had finished it, and I said to my agent, okay, yeah, let's move ahead. And they finally printed it off and they showed it to me, and it was about this big. I mean, the final book now is 80,000 words, so it's a lot more, and it kind of hit the table with a thump. And that was everything, I think, my grief and the pain, but also which has been touched on so much today, which is everything that I believe and agree with, which is empathy, but also plugging yourself into the world and realizing that you are part of something bigger. You only have to stand at a bus stop to realize that everybody has, or is, or will go through something that will change them. And that is not something that takes something away from you. That has given you so much. When I write down the list of pros and cons of what my illness has done, the pros way outweigh the cons. Because of my illness, I believe that I am a better friend, definitely a better parent, a better partner. If my child doesn't grow up to be a psychiatrist, I don't know what he's going to be. And realizing that actually the story of motherhood is much deeper than it is not about carrying a child inside you. I mean, it's something I'm still trying to figure out now, but actually you realize when you do have a child, anyway, whether you have what I had or not, this is not a case of you making a baby. This is a case of them making you. If I could just have the last slide, please, Daisy, if that's okay. Oh, that's okay. That's just proof that me and Hugo have loved each other since we were little. And that there is me and Jet not so long ago, just to show you that we are all alive and well. There is a charity called APP, Action on Postpartum Psychosis, an amazing organisation that helps parents that are going through this illness. This isn't something that just happens to first-time parents or people with previous episodes of mental health, poor mental health previously. It can happen to absolutely anybody, but it is completely treatable. Thank you so much for listening.